Hi, this is Ben Watkins, Juno Reactor. We're going through a track, Let the Flowers Grow, a remix I did for Pete Murphy and Boy George in a series called Deconstructed, where we look into tracks and generally show you the chaos I have to go through to kick them out.
Hey Ben, nice to see you.
Hi Mauro, nice to see you too.
Feels a bit weird to be on the side of this camera since like in the past shows that we did on the series of Inside Juno Reactor, I was pretty much on behind. But this is a second iteration of Juno Reactor Deconstructed, which today features a new track that you worked on.
Pete Murphy and Boy George coming together for a single, Let the Flowers Grow, that I believe I heard that Pete Murphy heard the song at Youth's place, and Youth was producing Boy George and writing with him, I think, and Pete Murphy heard the song and wanted to finish it. And
what brought you to work on the remix of this track?
Metropolis Records asked me. I mean, you would have thought Youth might have asked me, my old mate. But no, it wasn't. It was Metropolis, and they were looking just for people. I think there's other bands that have done remixes of different tracks, etc., etc.
And what was your first reaction when you heard it and when you first got approached?
Well, I really like the voices. You know, I think also I really like the lyrics. I think when I first sort of noticed Boy George was like in a rehearsal room in like sort of, 1980 or something. And so it's been interesting, you know, watching him, and then with Bow Wow Wow, and then by himself or whatever. So, you know, I've always liked his voice, so it's nice to work on something that is his voice. I mean, I had to rewrite all of the music. There was nothing that I could really use musically if I wanted to upscale the sort of beat and the idea and take it faster. So I had to sort of employ, and I was running around sort of with my drum machine and sort of trying out different BPMs and different ideas. And really, this is the one that I settled on. And it's sort of like I sort of broke it up into three parts, like the sort of intro, the middle section, and then the ends. But at the beginning, I just, like a lot of things that I work on, they sort of quite confuse me. And I don't really have a set plan. And I thought I'd more likely finish it in part two. And it just kept on evolving, so.
Do you find confusion? Chaos. Do you find still to make it sense in the end?
I don't like it. I don't know. I don't like to be in chaos and confusion too much or for too long. But usually when, at least it allows the chaos factor to sort of walk in the door. And as soon as I'm very logic about something, I think the tracks don't work out very well. I like generally when I've got a really fixed idea of what a track is about. I really hate it when I've got some really great sounding music and I still don't know what the track's about. You know, then it's sort of, that's where the real confusion for me lies. I can write all day long, different ideas, but unless it's really got a meaning, I can't finish it.
So you were mentioning that you basically work on the vocals only, you didn't keep any of the original music arrangements or recordings.
I didn't think I'd be able to, because it was very much set as like a sort of O Vienna type of pop song. You say things like Molchat Doma is very much a different experience. I didn't really have to look around. I didn't really have to walk around it. I sort of found it. I knew exactly how I wanted it and how I should arrange it pretty quickly.
Right.
This one took me a lot longer to suss out how I wanted it, but luckily the day that I started, I went into a music shop and I bought a 12-string guitar.
Nice.
Got a good deal, swapped it with a bass I had, which I never used.
Okay.
And I got this really beautiful 12-string.
Have you got it here in the studio?
I have got it here, yeah. And I got it from this place in Brighton called Mud Pie. And it's a 1966 Hagstrom, which is the same model that Bowie used to use. And obviously I'm a massive Bowie fan, have been all my life. And when you're above it, it just sounds gorgeous. Should tune it, I suppose.
And was it just like a random that you bought the guitar at the shop and you put it into the track?
I didn't realize I wanted to go in and buy a guitar.
Right.
And it was just that this guy, Antoine, I noticed that he had like 3 or 4 12 strings. And I said, oh, which one do you like? And he told me the story of this one, which I won't go into now. And I picked it up and it had really shitty strings on it, but it still sounded amazing. And I went and got my bass and brought it back and did a deal on it. Not massively expensive either, but and when you record with it, I just love it. You know, every time I pick up this guitar, it's like it's got a ghost in it, that it sort of feels like it makes you want to write a song, which is a bad idea for me. But it makes me write songs. It's a beautiful sound.
I think you, in a previous conversation talking about this project, you were telling me about a little bit how you recorded. You mentioned like a valve compressor, I think.
I've got this really nice compressor called a Retro Instruments valve compressor. And for some odd reason, the guitars it just really brings them to life a little bit more. And especially on this remix, I think I was using Crystalline by Baby Audio. Really works well with this guitar. I don't use that reverb on everything. I only use it if I pull out this guitar. It just sounds great. I got out the old Hydra. And I sort of think it, like, I really like, where they're talking.
I gave my soul to the thing that you admired. I caught it as it gave through.
Yeah, that's the Hydra.
The low drone sort of synth.
So like is like one of my favorite, Blade Runner.
Back to back.
And this is the bit I really loved.
I'm the heartbeat of the city.
I'm the heartbeat of the city. In the shadows I find my home. I love that bit.
Was there a part of the lyrics that you did connect with that kind of like sparked some of the creativity?
To me, in my head, when I was sort of like putting it together, I was imagining sort of like variations of Blade Runner, like very much a sort of Blade Runner city and anime and that type of construction.
So we were talking about the tempo, and that sort of like was a bit of a challenge to resolve how to figure your timeline of the piece. And in a previous conversation, you mentioned about the metric modulation and how you use the technique to work on the track.
I came across metric modulation pretty much from when I was working with Don and Zig on the Matrix stuff. And I think it was the Train Man and the Wachowskis were saying, oh, we really like this, but use this to kick off. Like, we've got to the most exciting part of what I'd done. And they said, let's start from there and then blah. And then Zig said, well, we'll just tap into metric modulation. And I was like, oh, okay. Not knowing what the fuck he's talking about. But the same thing here, I suppose, because it started at 90 BPM, and then obviously like double that, it's 180. And then if you do a triplet back from that, I think what's it ended up at? I think it was 135, but at 135, it wasn't really kicking it. So when I got it to 135, I did stretch it 10 BPM to 145. I mean, at the end of part 2, it was sort of by mistake, really. I sort of just thought, okay, let's straighten up the beat. And then as I straightened up the beat, I sort of went up a semitone. And I must admit, I think I did all of that sort of like quite random and was surprised it worked. Some of the sounds that sound like, there's one synth sound on it that sounds quite like Serum. But it's not. I just heard one of the synth noises that I'd made and I chopped it into like a tiny little sample and then replayed it like that. I don't think I've used any plug-in synths, not that I'm really against them. I just prefer the sound of like the Quantums or the Andromeda, the Hydra, the 202.
How do you blend like an organic element such as the guitar with the very Blade Runner-y sort of synths? Like, how do you find the balance in between?
I think electronic and acoustic instruments always sounds really good. You know, I really love it. So I think there's always a lot of confusion until there's like a creative stream that suddenly appears out of nowhere. And that's a bit like with every track that I work on. And I wish it would stop. I wish I could be like really logical.
Yeah.
And German about it and go, no, this is the way we do a Juno track. But I can't. You know, it seems like I have to walk around the bloody park for about, a few weeks.
When do you know when the remix is done?
It's never really ever done. It's like, I could carry it, like I remember like when I finished it and played it to you, you went something like, oh, I think you should have gone more heavy dance on it at the end. And then I was thinking, well, I've got a few months before they release it, I'll get round to it. And maybe I'll try that. But then when I listened back to it, I thought, well, actually, it's not really a dance record. It's like more of like a listening record. I wouldn't put it in the dance. Although it's got a 4/4, it's not really a dance track.
I wonder, like, what is the alchemy between you working on this track and the original artist?
I think it's really good to be in contact with the artist that you're remixing, just so that you can sometimes they can say something or write something in a message that can fire you off.
How do you feel about this one though, now that it's like sort of
I really like this track. I've lived with it for like nearly a year and I still really like it. So I really like its journey, sort of from the soft guitar right the way through, that sort of really seemed to match the words. And sometimes you wonder how it actually achieved itself. But as a track, I think it works as, a really nice listening experience. But anyway, I love it. So, I mean, I think that's the main thing. If I love it, hopefully there'll be a few people out there as well that'll get into it and enjoy it. I mean, it's only music, isn't it?
Any particular element or aspect that you enjoyed in the process, in the production process? Whether it is like a technique that you use or one of the instruments beyond what you mentioned before?
I think that thing I was saying to you about when I noticed this sound in one of the synths, and it was like a little broken bit, and then I chopped it up and made it a very staccato sort of sounding thing. I was really happy with that. I mean, that's that sort of... when I found that sound, I thought, yeah, this is really cool. I mean, I put so many like little noises on these sort of tracks that, you know, sort of hidden. Again, that's like the Hydra. When you're working on it, you don't really sort of analyze it like that anyway. So. I mean, there's a lot of things that I put in tracks that you can't really, that are just sort of like what I call shadow sounds. And they're just there to like little highlights. When you really feel like you've got something that you're going, okay, this is starting to really work, you know?
Right.
Because there's a period with a track, or I find that you're going, is it gonna live? Is it gonna die? Is it gonna live or die? And when it gets over that sort of surgical section, I'm really happy. A lot of the time I hear a heartbeat and I feel a pulse, right. But the corpse can definitely die on the surgical table. You know, you start playing around with something too much and you've gone too far. I think that's the really frustrating thing with tracks, when you say, or even when you finish it, you go, it's a bit of a zombie.
Have you got any final thoughts, any final reflections after you completed the works?
With this track, maybe just that youth suggestion that I should have maybe gone a bit harder in the last section, but I think there again it would have taken away from it being sort of the way it is.
Where can we find this track now?
You can find all of the links. I'm gonna post them anyway on my social media, so you won't be able to avoid them. Yeah, it'd be really good if people let me know what they think, and yeah, send us a message if you love it. If you hate it, keep it to yourself.